So what started the passion for whole foods itself? Like, was it your own health journey or something else?
Yeah, good question. So my apprenticeship was in a health retreat. I knew nothing about health retreats. You got to understand, I came from Papua New Guinea for like my whole adolescence and teenage adult life. So I grew up in Papua New Guinea, and I live in Indonesia right now. I'm calling from Indonesia. And so I grew up on the other half of Indonesia, and I was around home cooks that just put some sweet potato on the fire. So it blistered and got black and we ate the inside. You know, I stood around a fire with a metal pot making rice, which wasn't in a rice cooker. So for me, it was just a natural progression of an eating habit that I knew nothing about the health and wellness industry. When I came to Australia and there were shopping centres and aisles and escalators and, oh my God, choices, that freaked me out. I freaked out, and the health claims on everything just confused the shit out of me. And so when I had my apprenticeship in the health retreat, I pounded that pavement to get that job, not because it was in a health retreat, because I had 2 acres of gardens, and that's all I knew. And so when I got there, then I was like, oh, we make everything from scratch. Well, for me, it's like, well, why wouldn't you? It's like, well, is there another way? You can buy teriyaki sauce, you know, like we make it from scratch. You can buy barbecue sauce, we make it from scratch. Tomato sauce, make it from scratch. Everything's made from scratch. And so from that space, in its whole form, as close to nature intended to be, was an energetic alignment with where I came from, outside of this wellness and health industry, which I knew nothing about. And so as time went on, it was like diabetes, people with skin conditions, autoimmune diseases. Then you've got the gluten-free, the celiac, the vegan, the raw vegan, the cooked vegan, the no sugar vegan. You've got the vegetarian that eats eggs and eats fish. You've got the vegetarian that's lactose intolerant. You've got the organic, and it just became insanely intense. And it was a dilemma. It was an omnivore's dilemma. And I've actually got that tattooed on my arm here. It's an omnivore's dilemma of what to do. But for me, I stand very solidly in food, and it's, you know, from its whole form, as close to nature intended to be, with low human interference, which means I'm taking the nuts and making the almond butter. I'm taking the tomatoes and making the tomato sauce. So that's kind of, that was the pinnacle of opening up the treasure box where I already had come from anyway. You know, I didn't have a perfect diet. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I'm this clean eating person in my teenage years. I'm saying I grew up in a developing country where I didn't have the shopping aisles and the diets that you guys had. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really cool upbringing, because like most of us, we're brought up with all this variety and not knowing any better. And it's a learning experience. And from my own experience, I've had to go back to a lot of whole foods because of health, and I'm realizing that. And I think that's a lot of people's journey. They realize the processed stuff isn't working for them. But for the layman person, or the person that just has no clue what a whole food diet is, because I think there's plenty of people out there that have no idea what that really means and looks like. Can you cut it back to basics for them? Like, what does it look like for your daily life and what you're eating?
Yeah, but firstly, you know, this is the thing as well. Whole food is a trend, by the way. I don't do trends. So when I first started, it was called Whole Foods. Now I get smashed online because I use oil or coconut cream because it's not a whole food. So we've got to be really mindful of that word. And I actually should take it off my website, because the word whole food, which is taking something whole like an almond and blending it and making it into a butter without anything added to it. That's the journey of a whole food. Now, from the space of that to where we are now, we have people that are coming with a new diet wave going, well, hang on a minute, you've blended that. That's not a whole food anymore. Yeah. Oh, hang on a minute, you've made teriyaki sauce and it's got soy sauce in it and it's got some oil in it. That's not a whole food anymore. Hang on a minute, you made a beautiful chocolate cake with a frosting on it with coconut cream. That's not a whole food anymore. So there's a confusion in that word. But when somebody's starting to check in with themselves, like you did, Rebecca, with your diet, you were just saying before, you've had to change the way you eat. It's like we get to a crisis within ourselves, and then we go and we Google shit, and then we find what we think is going to be something. It's either a red pill or a purple pill that's going to cure us. And then we go down the pathway of maybe it's food related. And so then we start looking at food, and then to go into someone's pantry and rip out all the, the mustards and the tomato sauces and the mayonnaises and all the bits and pieces we have in the pantry for us and our children, because it's easy access. We now rip that apart, and what are we left with? We're left with ingredients that we don't know what to do with. It's quite stressful. So for anybody that's starting to go down the path of a real food value system, not a diet, a real food value system, it's like one step at a time. Start with one thing, like pasta would be the best thing to start with. You would look at a pasta packet that you normally buy, then you would look at something, say an organic or biodynamic pasta packet. And this is all about also economy as well, and where you are with your finances and whatever. But then you look at that, and then you look at the ingredients, and you're looking for an ancient grain that hasn't been fucked with really, and something that's processed, appropriately. And then you start making the swap slowly, and it becomes very gentle, very, very slow. I always take people on a journey. It's like, just start with one thing. Don't go down the health food store and buy everything that's gluten-free. It's like, just start with one meal and nail that meal till you nailed it with your eyes closed, and then you can go on to the next one. And that brings a lot of ease to people when they're starting off, and how to get there. Like from peanut butter to peanut butter. When we look at peanut butter in the supermarket, an average common peanut butter that we know, it has very limited peanuts in it. And then we go into a whole foods or a real food section of food. It's got peanuts in it, and it's got peanuts only. So they're the swap outs. You do it slowly around the value system that you feel is right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love how you explain that. And I think that's so important, because it's so daunting when you're making any change, especially with your diet, when you've got your favorite foods and your comfort foods and all the things. And it's funny, I work casually at a couple health food stores, and we have a peanut butter machine there, and people come in and ask, and they're saying, what else do you put in it? Is you put extra oil? I'm like, no, it's just peanuts. And some people don't believe me, because they don't understand that you can just make peanut butter from peanuts. But it is a slow, gradual thing. I agree. It's really important. And just finding your favorite food and then finding the alternative, like you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know about gut healing, because I've seen on your website and you talked on a few posts and blogs and stuff about gut healing. Now, what's your experience with healing with food? And I know that it's possible to heal with food with lots of things, but with gut healing specifically, is there simple things you could recommend for people to just start to try or change?
Yeah, I really truly believe, for myself and my experience, and I only come from my experience, right, that the mind is very much the part of the other two brains, which is the heart and the gut. And we are really looking for that purple pill, kind of red pill option. And it's just what we do. We want shit fast. We want it now. We don't particularly generally want to do the work, and what does that even mean, doing the work? So for me, what's helped me, my spiritual teacher, who I've been working with for 10 years now, who's in all my cookbooks, and someone that I have, thank God, because without her I wouldn't have the mind that I am today. But she has helped me understand the mind, and my mind, Cynthia's mind. She's been with me so long that I can now understand when I am worried, stressed, have worry, lack, loss, scarcity, all those energy, all those thoughts that become an energy. She has integrated in me where thoughts go, energy flows. And so the gut, the digestion for me closes when I'm in that space. And then say I was an eater of eating basic foods, like anything white bread, white pasta, just anything kind of down that road, and hardly any vegetables and processed food in the white form. So from my thoughts, and now I'm actually physically digesting food-like substances, that's when the gut starts to get compromised, from my experience. And so for everybody out there, and for yourself that's listening, is like, thoughts do matter. Diet really matters, but thoughts actually really matter too. And so the connection of those two together is really important before we jump into the next diet, because if we can understand the fight and flight mechanism that we have all the time, the worry, I'm going to change my career. Oh my God, I've got a kid. I don't know what to do. Do you think I'll make it? Fuck, I've got the home loan. God, the dishes need to be washed. This constant fight and flight that we're in. And if we can just really listen to that and just stay with it, just listen to it, and then make decisions of how to have, like, my spiritual practice is to be present. That's a big ask for me. I'm insanely creative and intensely over there all the time. Like, I am already building things. Yeah. So for me to sit in front of someone and say to them to be present, it's like, I can't do that. But what I can say to someone is, you know what, from my experience, when my brain is going all out there and stressing, not just in the beautiful creative part, but actually worried and in lack and in loss and in worry, what is working? My hands. My hands are actually working. That's a great thing to celebrate. My tongue works, thank God, then I can taste food. And it's just the little things that she's taught me. And her name is Kat Dawes. Please Google her. And she has really facilitated 10 years. I've had one coach for 10 years, and it's her, facilitated that conversation.
I've been following her stuff for a while. Yeah.
Okay,
I should probably get her on the podcast too and approach her. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. You think, go back to the mind first. And I guess that's right. If you're eating something and you're really, really stressed in that moment, how is that even going to be digested in your body anyway? And like, you're not going to be absorbing those nutrients just from a physical aspect properly because of that stress. So yeah, that's a really good point to touch on. That starts with the mind.
Yeah, and the body's really smart too. The body's smart. We're not stupid. The body's very intelligent. It's going to find ways to protect you through inflammation, through bloating, through gut pain, through not being able to digest food, through becoming celiac. It's smart. It's actually smart. People think an autoimmune disease is fighting. It's actually not. It's protecting. And so that's kind of, yeah, to answer your question.
Yeah. So if someone came to you with gut healing kind of concerns or needing some gut stuff, you obviously talk about the mind, but would you be looking at like anti-inflammatory sort of foods and things like that? Like, no?
Definitely not. No. I would be looking at, my teaching is very different to other people. I'd be going deep into, you know, how I'd just be having beautiful women like we are today, make conversations about just all sorts of things, and then slowly getting into the food conversation. And I would know the food conversation straight away through these conversations, because you can just tell, and I've been in this industry such a long time, I wouldn't even have to open up their cupboards or shame them or anything like that. I would just be able to know. And then I would go through the process with them and say, what do you love? And somebody would say, I love roast lamb and veggies. I'm like, great. Like, how can I show you how to get a better lamb? How can I show you how to get better vegetables? How can I show you how to cook them better? And it would be more along the transition of what they've already got until they can understand, or until they can deliver their value system to them before they come to me, because that's the process. You can't tell people what to eat. It's not in our right to do that. Our right is to facilitate the three pillars which I act on, which is, you know, to inspire them to think in a different paradigm and to educate them on that inspiration, and then to allow them to transform with you being by their side, is how I operate.
I love that. That's really good.
Yeah,
I love that. And yeah, it doesn't help obviously when you're coming from that space of shame anyway, and judgment and all of that, because everyone's on their own path and journey with food and health and connection.
Yeah, so don't come in here telling me that white rice is shit.
Yeah,
don't come in my house and tell me that white rice is bad. My mate's over there just now, he's lived on white rice her whole life, and so have I. It's like, what are you saying? Oh, the wellness industry's dead. I don't even know who these people are. I know farmers that are growing white rice, and I've grown up on white rice. I eat it 5 times a week, mate. Like seriously. And so that's where I stem in from. It's like, where do you feel good after a meal? Well, I don't actually feel very good after a packet of, you know, common chocolate biscuits. I'm like, great, let's dissect that. Let's educate on that.